Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. Licensed lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island Licensed Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser. I'm Steve Risser. Justin is out this week, so he'll be back next week when we talk NFL draft and more NBA playoffs. But we got to get to last night, and playoff Jimmy was playoff Jimmy. He had 38 points for the Warriors. It was a phenomenal performance last night. Steph Curry, he was great as well. He hit two big threes at the end. He had 37 as the Warriors get into the playoffs, get the 7 seed as they beat the Grizzlies last night. 121-116. Jimmy Butler proved last night that he's still one of when it gets to the postseason, he's one of the top performers. I mean, I bet Pat Riley should be regretting what he did, during the year, and probably wish he did things differently because, that was a phenomenal performance by Jimmy Butler last night. Steph Curry was great. It was great as well. He was really good. The game came right down to the end, and this is what happens when you have an interim head coach if you're Memphis. A game came right down to the end. You're down 3. You got a chance to tie the game, and then they get called for a 5. They get a 5-second call. So yeah, that's the risk you run when you fire your coach this late in the season, and you have an interim head coach in there. Something like that's going to happen. So really, really good win for the Warriors. I was just so impressed with Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry. And one concern though, going forward with the Warriors is Butler and Steph are great, but they only won by 5 points. And a big reason for that, though, is really no one else had that good of a game. I mean, Draymond Green, I know he had 10 assists, but he only had 4 points. I mean, Moses Moody and Buddy Hield had 11. Moses Moody didn't have a good game. Pajamski didn't have a good game. So they need that third score. And that's why last week, when Justin and I were talking about, what team is the biggest threat to Oklahoma City? Because I think everyone could agree that Oklahoma City is the favorite to win the Western Conference. But when Justin and I were talking last week about, what team is the biggest threat to OKC? What team is going to be the biggest threat? He said the Warriors. I said the Lakers because of the third scorer. I think the biggest issue for the Warriors going to this postseason is, do they have that consistent third scorer? Can a third guy step up? That's going to be a big key if they want to make a big run. Now, I think they could beat the Rockets without a third scorer stepping up, because the Rockets have trouble scoring. But if they want to beat the Lakers, they want to beat an Oklahoma City, they're going to have a third guy step up night in and night out, or they're not going to be able to, or they're probably not going to get past the second round. But all in all, Jimmy Butler was absolutely phenomenal last night. So was Steph Curry. And the Warriors move on to the playoffs to take on the Rockets, a familiar foe for the Warriors. They faced off a lot when James Harden was there. They faced off in one conference final too, where the Warriors, beat them in 7. But the familiar foe for the Warriors, they faced the Rockets. Totally different Rockets team that they face, but they're going to face a familiar foe in the first round. The big question is, going into their series with the Rockets, can they win this series? Can they win this series with the Rockets? Can the Warriors win the series with the Rockets? And I think they can, and I think they do. I think they do. I think they win this series, because there's going to be 2 players that are going to be the difference. It's going to be Steph Curry. It's going to be Jimmy Butler. I think it's going to be a competitive series. Don't get me wrong. Ime Udoka has done a great job with this team. The Rockets have had a great regular season, being the second best team, getting the number 2 seed, being 52-30. But here's the reality of the situation. The Rockets don't have a go-to guy. Jalen Green is really good, Do you trust him late in the game? Alfred Şengün, he's really good. You trust him late in the game? Fred VanVleet, he's really good. You trust him late in the game? No. You don't trust the Rockets to have a guy late in the game that can make a big shot. That's the difference. And I know they were the number 2 seed, but if you're looking at contenders, you look at contenders in the West, where would you put the Rockets? Where would you put the Rockets as contenders in the West? I mean, obviously, if you look at contenders in the West, you would start with OKC 1. I would go with LA 2. Denver, Golden State 3 and 4. You probably don't put the best you put him is probably 5. That's no. I don't even think 5. Look at the way the Clippers are playing. So the best you probably put him is 6 or maybe 7. You could argue put him behind Minnesota. So because again, it's Minnesota has Anthony Edwards at the end of the game. But I think this series is the Rockets are going to compete. The Rockets are going to compete. I think they take 6. I do think this Rockets team takes the 6 game. I think they do. But the difference is going to be in some of these games, late in these games, I think Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler are going to step up. They're going to step up, and the Rockets, with their lack of experience and not having a superstar like the Warriors do in Steph Curry, that's going to hurt them in the series. I think it is. I think it'll be a really competitive series. I think it'll be one of the best. I think it'll be one of the best series of the first round. That one, and probably Denver and the Clippers, and we'll get to that series a little later on. But yeah, I just don't think the Rockets have that star. They don't have that star. I think Ime's done a great job. They don't have that star. That's why I'm going with the Warriors here. I think the Warriors get to the second round. I think the Warriors get to the second round of the playoffs. I got them winning that series in 6. I got the Warriors beating the Rockets in 6 games. But we'll circle back. We're going to circle back to the play-in tournament and the Mavs play the Kings tonight. But the bigger story with the Mavs is what a joke Nico Harrison is a general manager. This guy is absolutely pathetic. He holds a press conference yesterday with no cameras allowed. It's amazing. This guy, if they lose tonight to the Kings, he has got to be fired. You're the one, and he doubles down on trading Luka Doncic. He doubles down, just says, I have no regret for trading Luka Doncic. When your fans last week, all they were doing most of the game was chanting fire Nico. They wanted you to be fired, and they cheered Luka with every bucket, and rightfully so. Those fans behaved. I had no problem with the way those fans behaved because the trade was just absolutely. It's one of the worst trades I've ever seen. And I've been watching sports for over 30 years. It's one of the worst trades that I've ever seen. It is one of the worst trades I've ever seen. I mean, just it's absolutely terrible. And then have a press conference with no. They did have tape recorders, but to have no cameras and press conference, this looks so bad. It's such a bad look for the Mavs. It is just such a bad. Everything right now is just so bad for the Dallas Mavericks. It is just absolutely terrible. They make a trade to pretty much knock them out of championship contention. The only reason Dallas even has a chance to play this game tonight is because the Phoenix Suns completely collapsed. That's the only reason why. The Suns are a bigger joke than them. That's why the Mavericks have a chance to play this game tonight. But this game tonight, I think the Kings win it. I think they win it by double digits. I guarantee you there are Mavs fans, because if they lose, they go into the lottery. I guarantee you there are Mavs fans that just want their team to lose tonight. And I want the season to be over, because this has been an absolute nightmare. After going to the NBA Finals last year, this has been an absolute nightmare for the Dallas Mavericks this season. Absolute nightmare. And just with the Luka trade and everything that's gone on, the Kyrie injury, AD getting hurt. He came back, but he got hurt right after they acquired him. So this has just been an outright nightmare for the Dallas Mavericks. And this game, I think that, DeRozan has a good game. I think Zach LaVine has a good game. And I think the Kings win this, and they win it by double digits. I think the Kings win it by double digits. They put the Mavs fans out of their misery. And the ownership of the Mavs should put their fans out of their misery by just completely firing Nico Harrison, because this is unacceptable. This whole, mantra, defense wins championships. Has he watched the NBA? Does he know the way the NBA has evolved? Does he know does he know it's 2025 and not 2005 in the NBA? This guy is clueless. He needs to be fired immediately. And I know I'm saying what everyone's saying, and I know I'm saying the obvious thing right now, but Nico Harris, there's no way the Mavericks could go into next season with Nico Harrison as the GM. The fans they won't show up to the games. They won't show up. You think it's bad now? It's only going to get worse and worse and worse as this thing goes on. The Mavericks need to get into the lottery, get a new general manager, and have ownership, admit their mistake, and start over. That's what they have to do. They can't be doubling down on this defense wins championships thing that Nico Harrison, wants to say wants to talk about. No, they need to admit they're wrong and get this thing right. Fire Nico Harrison and start over. They lose tonight, they have to. I don't think Nico Harris. I think Nico Harris should be fired tomorrow morning if they lose tonight. I don't think there's any way he should have a job by tomorrow morning if the Mavericks lose tonight. There's just no way. This trade was so bad, so terrible that the Mavericks need to admit they're wrong, and they need to get a GM in there and start over. They need to do that. They need to do that. So tonight, I think the Kings win. I don't know what's going to happen to Nico Harrison, but I definitely think the Kings win and move on to Friday night as they will take and move on to Friday night as they will take on the Memphis Grizzlies. So I think it'll be Kings and Grizzlies on Friday night, and both those teams will battle for the 8th seed, and who will go to Oklahoma City on Sunday afternoon. But moving on to more matchups in the Western Conference, we will go from Luka's old team to his new team, and his new team is got the number 3 seed in the West, and they will be facing the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is an interesting series, but I think it's a series the Lakers should win. I know the team split, went 2-2 during the regular season, but let's be honest. They only played one of those games when Luka was there, and when Luka was there, the Lakers won that game over the Timberwolves, 111-102. I think this Timberwolves team, I know they got to the conference final last year, but I think this Timberwolves team is worse. I think that Julius Randle is a downgrade over Karl Anthony Towns, and there's maturity issues with it. And don't get me wrong, Anthony Edwards is a top 10 player in the game, but there has been maturity issues with Anthony Edwards. And we saw what Luka did last year to the Timberwolves. We saw what he did last year in the conference finals with the Timberwolves, and he didn't even have as good of a team around him as he does with the Lakers. I think that Austin Reeves has a good series. I think LeBron James has a really good series. I'll be generous and I'll give the Timberwolves 2 games, but this is why the Lakers went out and traded for Luka Doncic. They wanted a guy that could help them get on another run, help LeBron get his 5th ring, get another championship. So it's just a very similar. I'm not completely, because I know that Luka's clearly a better player than Jimmy Butler. But yeah, the same thing with the Warriors did. They went out and acquired a guy to get Steph his 5th ring. The Lakers in a crazy trade. I mean, a trade that that people when they saw it didn't think it was real, but they went out and got Luka Doncic to try to get LeBron James a 5th ring. And then this series, they should be fine. They should be. If you look at, they're the team that could score more. Luka could score, Reeves could score, LeBron could score. And then you got the Timberwolves, and Mike Conley has not had as good of a year. Really, outside of Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, who do you trust could score? I know Rudy Gobert is a really good defensive player, but can you trust him as a scorer? No. So yeah, I think the Lakers win this series. I think they do. I think they win the series. I think we're gonna get Lakers Warriors again. We got it 2 years ago. I think we're gonna get it. We're gonna get it again. I think we're gonna get Lakers Warriors again because I think the Warriors win their series. Like I said earlier, I think the Warriors win their series against the Rockets, and I think that the Lakers win their series against the Timberwolves. So I think we're getting Warriors Lakers again. I get the Lakers winning this in 6 games over the Timberwolves and getting to the second round. Now moving to the final series of the Western Conference, and a very interesting series between the Clippers, probably the hottest team, against the best player in the league, Nikola Jokic. Now the Nuggets do have an interim head coach, but since Michael Malone's been fired, the Nuggets are 3-0, and all those games mattered to them. They beat the Kings, they beat the Grizzlies. That was a game that mattered, and I know the game didn't matter to the Rockets on Sunday, but they played a lot of their starters, and the Nuggets beat them bad. They beat them bad in their house in Houston. So, I think this is going to be such an interesting series. And then the Clippers, they really impressed me on Sunday. The Clippers really impressed me on Sunday with the way they beat the Warriors, and the game that James Harden had, the game Kawhi Leonard has. And the story for the Clippers has been Kawhi Leonard. He has been absolutely phenomenal the last month and a half. He's averaging over 25 a game. He's just been so good. Honestly, he hasn't played this well probably since 2019. He has not played this well since 2019. So, and again, health is always an issue with Kawhi Leonard. I mean, the last time he made it through a playoff series was in the bubble in 2020 when ironically they played the Nuggets in that series. I mean, in 2021 he got hurt in the second round against the Jazz. That team ends up losing in the conference finals. He wasn't there when they played in the play-in tournament in 2022. In 2023 when they went up against Phoenix in the first round. He only played 2 games in that series. And last year when they played against Dallas, he only played a couple games. So he's had trouble making it through an entire series. He's had a lot of trouble making it through an entire series. So yeah, I listen. This is going to be a very interesting series, and getting into this series, I think it's going to be back and forth. I think it's going to be back and forth. I mean, I think that Jokic is going to have a huge series, and Kawhi's going to have a huge series. This thing's going 6 or 7. I think this thing either way is going 6 or 7. I think it is. I think this is going to be a really fun series with these two teams. I mean, if you look at the Clippers too, the way James Harden has played, they got Zubac inside. He's played really well. Norman Powell's had a really good year. So, and then you look at the Nuggets, they got the best player in the sport. They got Jamal Murray back. Michael Porter Jr. I think this thing goes 6 or 7. But at the end of the day, I got to go with the best player in the sport. I got to go with the best player. I got to go with Jokic. I just do. I totally can't trust Kawhi until I see it in the postseason. He was great on Sunday, but you could argue Sunday was kind of like a playoff game because the winner was going to avoid the play tournament into the playoffs. But I have to see it from Kawhi in the playoffs. I mean, so I think it's going to be a close, competitive series. But I got to go with the best player in the world here. I can't go, and even though they don't have their head coach, even though they don't have Michael Malone anymore, they fired him. I still got to go with Nikola Jokic here. I still got to go with Nikola Jokic to win this series, and I still go with Nuggets to win this series. I'm going to go with the Nuggets, and I'm going to go with the Nuggets at 7. I'm going to go with the Nuggets at 7. I think we're going to get a matchup between the Nuggets and the and Thunder. I think we're going to get a Nuggets Thunder because regardless of who the Thunder play in their first round series, I think they're beating both those teams in 5 games. Yes, Memphis might give them a good series, but I can't give Memphis a chance, especially with an interim head coach who couldn't even at the end of the game, they couldn't even get the ball in bounds. They couldn't. That's inexcusable. That's flat inexcusable. That just can't happen. Lack of maturity with Ja. I think, the winner of the game, whoever wins, if it's the Kings or Grizzlies or even somehow the Mavericks that win these games, I just think Oklahoma City's beating one of those teams in 5 games. So in the Western Conference, I think it's going to be a rematch between I think we're getting Warriors Lakers and we're getting Nuggets Thunder, and that's going to be really fun in the second round. But I think the 2 most interesting series in the Western Conference are going to be obviously Warriors Rockets, because the Warriors won't have home court, and then Clippers Nuggets. Clippers Nuggets, I think, is the best. I think Clippers Nuggets definitely the best. But I think Warriors Rockets will be right below it. But the 2 most interesting series, Warriors Rockets and Clippers Nuggets. But moving on to the Eastern Conference, and last night the Magic beat the Hawks 120 to 95. I mean, the Hawks were pathetic from 3-point range, shooting 19%. The Hawks were absolutely terrible. Trae Young gets ejected. A terrible night for the Hawks, losing that game by 25 points. And the Magic, I mean, even on a night where, Paolo Banchero did not play that well, did not play great. Franz Wagner didn't play that great. You had a guy step up, and you had Cole Anthony step up with 26. Cole Anthony dropped 26. Magic advanced to got to the playoffs for the second year in a row. But the team that they got a team waiting for them who is probably the best team in the East. It was probably the best team in the East and is the defending NBA champions, and that's the Boston Celtics. And for me, in this series with these 2 teams, it starts Sunday at 3 o'clock. 3:30 Sunday it starts. I have a very, very hard time seeing the Orlando Magic compete in this series, because the Boston Celtics are built like a team that's fit for the NBA in 2025. They hit their threes. They hit an NBA record for threes in an entire season. The Orlando Magic, they are the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. They're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. I know the Magic won 2 out of 3 during the regular season. I don't like this matchup at all. I think the Celtics cruise in the series, win it in 5. I don't see it going further than 5. I got the Celtics here in 5 games, getting to the second round. I got the Celtics winning in 5. I got them beating the Magic in 5 games. Yeah, I know the Magic won last night, but it's going to be a major step up in competition when they face the Celtics, the defending champs, in the second round. But we also have a playing game tonight in the Eastern Conference between the Heat and the Bulls. It feels like these teams live in the play-in. They played 2 years ago in that crazy play-in game where the Heat came back and won and made a run to the NBA Finals. The difference is, even if the Heat win this game, guess who they don't have on their team? They don't have playoff Jimmy. They traded that away, and that's really going to hurt them. And I think they lose tonight. I think the Bulls win. I think at home, the way Kobe White's been playing, we'll see if Josh Giddey plays. We'll see what happens there. Josh Giddey, he's played really well in the second half of the year. But the issue is The Heat don't. The Heat. I like Tyler Hero. I like Bam, but they're gonna see what playing in the playoffs without Jimmy Butler is like, and it's not gonna be good for them. And that's why I think the Bulls. Advance. I think the Bulls advance to Friday night to face the Hawks. I think we get Bulls Hawks on Friday night in the game that it's pretty much a game where the winner is going to lose in 5 to the Cavs. But I think the Bulls come away with a win tonight, and they get at least one more game going to Atlanta to face the Hawks on Friday night. But moving on to a couple more playoff matchups in the Eastern Conference. And we'll go to one of the more intriguing Eastern Conference playoff matchups. And this is between the Detroit Pistons and the New York Knicks. The Pistons beat the Knicks 3 out of 4 times during the year. Cade Cunningham has had a great year. He solidified himself as an all-star. He solidified himself as a franchise player. There was some question last year when the Pistons lost 28 in a row. Would this guy be the man? Would he be the guy? Would he be the guy for them? But he's definitely proved it this year. Definitely proved it. It's had a great year for the Pistons. Pistons number 16 seed. You have some veterans like Malik Beasley, who's been really good off the bench. You got Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, so some veterans have helped them out. And now you got the Knicks, who, listen, the Knicks, the last 2 years they've lost in the conference semifinals. Now to the Knicks with Thibodeau, the first round is they played well in the first round. Last year they beat the Cavs. 2 years ago they beat the Cavs. Last year they beat the Sixers in the first round. And this series, I think they do win this series. Now, am I confident with this Knicks team going forward? Absolutely not. 0-8 against the Celtics and the Cavs this year. That gives you no confidence that this team is going to get past the second round. But in this round, even though they lost 3 out of 4, I am confident with them in this round. I am confident with the Knicks in this round because they have the experience. They have more playoff experience in this Pistons team. They have more experience. Jalen Brunson came back. I think I was happy he didn't wait till the playoffs to come back. He came back. He's starting to play well. You got Katz. You got OG who's played well. Bridges, he needs to improve. He definitely needs to step up. But I think in this series, the series could very easily go 6 or 7. I think it very easily can go 6 or 7. I think that the Pistons, win a game or 2 in Detroit. They win a game or 2 in Detroit. But I think it's going to be tough for the Pistons to win in the Garden. I'm going to go with the Knicks in 6 here. I'm going to go with the Knicks in 6 to get a matchup with the Celtics, which is a brutal matchup for the Knicks. That's going to be a brutal matchup for the Knicks, especially the fact they haven't beaten them all year long. But I am going to go with the Knicks here. But say the Knicks don't get out of the first round, the big question is going to be is Tom Thibodeau's future with this team. It's going to be Thibs' future with this team. To me, though, I think he should stay regardless. I think he should stay regardless. I think if the Knicks, say they get knocked out in the first round or lose or get swept or lose in 5 to the Celtics, I think the bigger issue is can you win a championship with Jalen Brunson as your best player? That's the bigger question than can Tom Thibodeau coach. I think Tom Thibodeau could coach. I think Tom Thibodeau's done a really good job with this Knicks team. So I wouldn't get rid of Thibodeau regardless. Now, if they lose in the first round, they probably will get Thibodeau, especially with Michael Malone out there. Or even if they get swept to the Celtics, they could get rid of Thibodeau too, especially, with Michael Malone out there. He's from the New York area. So, I wouldn't be surprised they fire him, but I don't think they should fire him regardless. Tom Thibodeau pretty much, 4 of the 5 years he's been the head coach, the Knicks have made the playoffs. Tell me the last time the Knicks have made the playoffs 4 times in 5 years. You have to go back to the Jeff Van Gundy year. So, I do not think the Knicks should move on from Thibodeau regardless. And people might think I'm crazy, even if they lose the series to the Pistons, that they don't move on from Thibs. But I don't think they should move on from Thibs regardless. But I could very easily see them moving on from Thibs if that does happen. But all in all, for this series, this should be a close, competitive series. But at the end of the day, I'm going with the team with more experience. I'm going to go with my Knicks and to get into the second round and set up a matchup with the Celtics. So it should be an interesting series between the Knicks and Pistons starting on Saturday. But we will wrap up talking about the Bucks and the Pacers. And if the Bucks were say Dame was healthy, Dame was healthy, I would take the Bucks here. I would take the Bucks. But with Dame not being, it's weird because last year Giannis wasn't healthy when they played against each other, and the Pacers won that series in 6. It's in reverse this year where Dame isn't healthy and Giannis is. But if you see the other guys that are around Giannis, the team around Giannis is absolutely terrible. I mean, if Dame isn't there, you have a lot of C, D players around Giannis. And if you look at the Pacers, they're a pretty good team. With Tyrese Hall, they got to the conference finals last year. Now, were they a little lucky due to injuries with Giannis and the injuries the Knicks had? Yes, but Rick Carlisle's still doing a really good job there. So in this series, I think again it's a close, competitive series, but the difference is going to be, I think, the more healthy team. Just like it was last year when they played, I think the more healthy team is going to be the difference. And the Pacers are the more healthy team. I think Tyrese Halliburton has a big series. I think that so does Siakam. I think it's going to be hard. Even if Dame comes back, it's going to be hard to get that chemistry back with him. I think Giannis is going to have his games in the series, but the problem is the supporting cast for the Pacers are going to step up more than the supporting cast for the Bucks, and I think that's going to be the biggest difference. I think guys like Siakam and Turner and Nembhard are going to step up for the Pacers, and I think guys for the Bucks are going to have trouble stepping up. Because Lopez is getting up there in age. Andre Jackson, I was a UConn guy, but he has trouble scoring. Kuzma, he's had one of his worst. He's probably had one of the worst seasons. He's probably had the worst season of his career. So I think, again, this is a close competitive series. But I'm going Pacers. Pacers. I got the Pacers, again, for the second year in a row, beating the Bucks in 6 games. I got the Pacers beating the Bucks in 6. So I got pretty much the same 4 teams last year that were in the same 4 teams that were in the conference semifinals last year. I got them back in different matchups, but I got the same 4 teams. I got the Cavs and the Pacers. Cavs playing the Pacers and the Knicks playing the Celtics. Like last year, the Cavs played the Celtics and the Knicks played the Pacers. So I got the same 4 teams returning to the conference finals. I got the same 4 teams returning to the conference semifinals in the Eastern Conference. So it should be interesting. See what happens in the Eastern Conference. But before we wrap up with the NBA, we got to talk about the Suns and them firing Mike Budenholzer. And this organization's a total joke. And we talked about the Mavs earlier. They're right. This organization's a complete joke. I mean, they're getting their 4th different head coach in 4 years. 2023 Monty Williams, 2022, 2023 Monty Williams when they lost 23 Monty Williams, 23-24 Frank Vogel, 24-25 Mike Budenholzer, and now they're gonna have another new coach. 4th new coach in 4 years, no stability. And at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from Kevin Durant. I wouldn't be surprised at all at this point if they move on from Durant. And then the big question is, what is his future? And I could see some of these playoff teams that get knocked out, like a Timberwolves or a Rockets. I definitely could see maybe a trade there. I could see a trade there with the T-Wolves and Rockets. So I definitely could see a trade there. I think there's a very, very good chance Kevin Durant is not on the Nets. Is not playing for the I don't say Brooklyn Nets, but is not playing for the Phoenix Suns next year. I definitely could see that. I definitely could. But all in all, it has just been an absolute disaster. It's been an absolute disaster for the Phoenix Suns. This franchise is just an absolute mess. And we'll see what happens going forward with them. We'll see what happens going forward with the Phoenix Suns, what they do with Kevin Durant, and what their next head coaching hire is going to be. But we got another player that wants out of Miami. But before we talk about that, we're going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Go Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
There's no bigger investment than home ownership, And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All righty. So yesterday, the Dolphins said that they are going to explore trade options for Jalen Ramsey. They're looking to trade Jalen Ramsey. And, this is a quarter in his 30s. I mean, he's had a great career. I mean, wasn't all pro with the Jaguars, was really, really good with the Rams, was really good with the Dolphins too, made the Pro Bowl a year ago, didn't make the Pro Bowl last year, but still one of the top corners in the game. So it's, but oh no, this has been a really bad offseason for the Dolphins. Really bad offseason. You got Tyron Armstead retires. You want Tyreek Hill wants out. Jalen Ramsey is looking to be traded. Just a bad offseason for Chris Greer. They have fallen further. I remember 2 years ago, they were right there with the Bills. They were playing a game to win the division. Now, even the week before, they were playing a game to get the number one seed. I mean, they were playing a game to win the division 2 years ago. Last year, Tua doesn't stay healthy. The Bills beat him twice, and they are so far away from the Bills right now. It's crazy. I mean, let's be honest. They're close. They're now closer to seeing what the Patriots have done this offseason. They're closer to the Patriots than they are to the Bills. They are. They paid Tua a lot of money. It's tough to argue that because so many quarterbacks are getting paid, but this team is kind of falling apart. Head coach on the hot seat, quarterback having trouble staying healthy, guys wanting out. This Dolphins team is just completely falling apart. This Dolphins team, it's falling apart. And with what's going on right now, I can very easily see this being, a 6-7 win team and Mike McDaniel getting fired at the end of the year. Funny about saying that because it was, a year and a half ago we saw him put up 70 points against the Broncos. Now it looks like there's a good chance that he's going to lose his job at the end of the year. So it is not looking good for the Dolphins at all going into this season. But we'll move on. We'll talk more about Jalen Ramsey and possible trade destinations for him. Possible trade destinations. I got three trade destinations for Jalen Ramsey. Number one, the Washington Commanders. The Commanders have been so aggressive. Ever since Adam Peters has taken over, the Commanders have just been so aggressive. Went out, made the trade for Marshawn Lattimore, at the trade deadline. I know he didn't play that much for them, but they made the trade for Lattimore. Go out, trade. They make the trade for Deebo Samuel. And then they go out and make the trade for Laramie Tunsil. This team has been really, really aggressive. And I would be surprised, even though they have, Lattimore and they drafted Samuel still with their second-round pick last year, I would not be surprised if they went out and traded for Jalen Ramsey. I would not be surprised at all if they made that trade. Number two, for me, is the Green Bay Packers. It's the Green Bay Packers because there's a good chance Jari Alexander could get traded. Jari Alexander has wanted out of there. The Packers have the Packers have kind of wanted to move on. I would not be surprised if it is the Packers. The Packers give them a second round pick. Give the Dolphins a second round pick. I would not be surprised if it's Green Bay because if Jari Alexander gets traded, and to say in an Alexander trade, they could get an extra second round pick, so they could trade that second round pick for Jalen Ramsey. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if he goes to the Packers. I would not be surprised if he goes to the Packers. And then third, it's the Cardinals. It's the Cardinals because they need a corner, and they were kind of a win. The Cardinals are kind of a win now mode. They went out and signed Josh Sweat. Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. Jonathan Gannon's in year 3. I feel like this is a year where last year he was in the playoff race, went 8-9, but I feel like this is a year where he's kind of got to get into the playoffs, or he could end up getting fired. So I think the Cardinals, that would be another good fit for Jalen Ramsey. So for me, it's the Commanders, the Packers, or Cardinals. But all in all, with the Dolphins, it's not working out there in Miami. It's just not. There just isn't a lot of optimism for the Dolphins going into the season. They'll win games because they have a good quarterback in Tua if he can stay healthy, and that's always been a major if Tua can stay healthy. That's always been a major if, but. We'll see what happens there with Ramsey. We'll see if they end up trading him away. We'll see what ends up happening. But all in all, just not good for the Dolphins. Now we'll shift our attention to the Giants and Shedeur Sanders. And tomorrow the Giants are having they're having a private in Boulder, Colorado. The Giants are having a private workout for Shedeur Sanders. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh no, it looks like the Giants are going to take Sanders at 3. Going to take Sanders at 3." To me, that's definitely not the case because they're also having private workouts for Jalen Milroy and Tyler Shuck. So they're having private workouts for 2 other quarterbacks. So I don't think they're taking Sanders at 3. I don't think this means they're taking Sanders at 3. I just think they're doing their due diligence. They're getting as much information they can ahead of the draft next week. They're getting as much information as they can on Shedeur Sanders, on Jalen Milroy, on Tyler Shuck to see what direction they're going to go. Because I'm pretty convinced. I'm pretty convinced the Giants are taking Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter with the number 3 overall pick. And just seeing their actions in the offseason, seeing where this regime is at. Their actions in the offseason, they went out and signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. It's very, very hard for me to see them after they signed 2 quarterbacks and spend $25 million put $25 million into the position in the offseason that they would go out and draft a quarterback at 3. I think the reason they went out is number one, not so that Shedeur Sanders is worth the number 3 pick, and number 2, and the most obvious reason is Brian Daboll and Joe Shane's jobs are on the line more than any coach combination in the NFL. Maybe Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard are close, but Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's jobs are on Joe Shane and Brian Daboll are on the hottest seat of anyone in the league. They're lucky they had this opportunity. They're very lucky they have this opportunity. They very easily could have been fired last year. So yeah, a regime that needs to win games is not going to play a rookie quarterback. What they're going to do is do what they did. Go out and get sign a couple veteran quarterbacks, Russell Wilson or Jameis Winston, and then take the best player available that's going to win you games. And that looks like that's going to be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. So yeah, say you start the season with Russell Wilson as your starter. You go out and you on defense, you have Dex on that defensive line, you add like an Abdul Carter. You could have a really, really good defensive line there. Your defense could be really good, which could eventually get you to maybe, this is me being really optimistic about this team. I personally don't think they're going to be 5. I think they're going to be a 5-6 win team regardless of what they do in the draft. But say you take an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter and you improve your defense. You have Dexter Lawrence back. You have a pretty good defense. And then say you have Russell Wilson as your quarterback. A quarterback doesn't turn the ball over that much. And say you win, 8 or 9 games and show improvement and you're in the race. You might be able to keep your job. Now, it's going to be very, very hard for them to keep their jobs. But this is, to me, the best way to do it is seeing what they're doing now. Going out, signing 2 veteran quarterbacks, drafting the best player available. That's the best chance they're going to. That's the best thing they could do to keep their job. So yeah. So and the thing is with what they're probably going to do in the draft, it's actually best for them and best for the organization because there's a very good chance if they draft Shedeur Sanders, they're going to be set back for the next. They could very easily be set back for the next 3 to 4 years. So. But circling back to Shedeur Sanders, I think they're just doing their due diligence. The Giants are doing their due diligence. They're getting as much information they can ahead of the draft. To me, this does not mean they're taking them at 3 because they're working out with a couple other quarterbacks. Now, would I be surprised at all if they took a quarterback in the second round or even trade up in the first round to take a quarterback? Not at all. I mean, I could see them take trading up for they could potentially trade up for a Jalen Milroy or a Tyler Shuck in the first round, or take that guy with their first pick in the second round. I very easily could see a quarterback being taken with that pick because I think John Mara wants a young quarterback in the building with Winston and with Russell Wilson. He wants a young quarterback in the building, but I don't think the Giants are taking Shedeur Sanders, and I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to fall. I don't think he's falling past 9. Right now in my mock draft, I got Shedeur Sanders going to the Saints at 9. So I don't think he's fallen past 9. I just think the Giants are doing their due diligence. I think this still means they're going to take the player that matches the value of that pick, and that's going to be either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter. That's who I think the Giants will take with that pick. I think this workout with Shedeur Sanders tomorrow is just them doing their due diligence and getting as much information they can ahead of the draft. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. Should be interesting to see what happens with the Giants and seeing what happens with the Giants and see what they do in the draft next week. And I just remind all you guys, we'll have our mock draft. Justin will be back next week. We will have our mock draft like we do every year on this show. We'll have our entire mock draft next week at 1 p.m. So make sure you tune in for that. Just making sure that I'm just promoting it ahead. So you guys tune in next week for that show. But yeah, it should be interesting to see what the Giants do, and we'll see what happens there. But we're going to wrap up the show doing our weekly check-in on the Yankees and the Red Sox. And first, we start with the Yankees. And, I think this Yankee team, there's two areas of this team I'm very confident in. I think the lineup is really good. I think it is. Judge has been great. Volpe's been good. Goldschmidt's been a good addition. He's hitting over 300. Ben Rice, I like him in the leadoff spot. Judge Chisholm, even though he's hitting under 200, he still has 6 home runs. I know the guy who struggled is Bellinger. He's the one guy who struggled. He's like the one guy who struggled in this lineup. It was nice to see the Martian getting a big hit last night, getting that big 3-run double, put the Yankees in the lead, and the bullpen was able to close it out. And for the bullpen, I think Devin Williams is starting to settle in here. Yes, he had 2 rough outings, opening day against the Brewers, and then that outing against the Tigers last Thursday. He had a couple rough outings, but I think he's starting to settle in as the closer. Luke Weaver is the setup man. So I think this Yankee team is starting to settle in. But the major concern with this Yankee team, and what is going to be by far the biggest reason why they don't go back to the World Series, is this rotation. Because really, outside of Max Fried, who's been awesome. Max Fried has been awesome so far. I mean, they're 4-0 when he started. He's 3-0, ERA under 2. Max Fried has been awesome. But the issue with this rotation, the issue with the 2 through 5 guys in this rotation is a major problem. All four of those guys have ERAs over 5. Rondon has not pitched that well this year. Yes, he pitched decent on Sunday, but he gave up that 3-run homer, to pretty much ruin his outing on Sunday. Warren has been, okay. I'd say Will Warren's been okay. Marcus Stroman has been an outright and he went to the IL, but he's been an outright disaster. He's been an outright disaster for the Yankees so far. Stroman's been a disaster. He had a terrible outing last Friday against the Giants. And then you got Carrasco, who pitched pretty well on Monday, but he struggled as well. His ERA is still, I think, over 7. He struggled as well. So major issue with this team. That's why Clark Schmidt coming back. I think he's back tonight. I'm pretty sure he's back tonight. But Clark Schmidt coming back should help this rotation because then I know Stroman will be out, but eventually you can send one of these guys down that's struggling. But yeah, the rotation has to be better. But all in all, 10-7. I'm happy where the Yankees are in an American League. Let's be real. There's no great team in this American League. There really is. The Orioles are down. The AL Central, there's no great team. The AL West, there's really no great team. The American League is very, very, very weak. I think you could argue it might even be weaker than it was last year when the Yankees went to the World Series. So it's a very, very weak American League. I like where the Yankees are in 2 spots right now with the bullpen and the lineup. Rotation needs to improve, but I think it could. I think it could. Rendon's got to be better, especially Rendon. He's going to be the key. He's got to be better. And when Clark Schmidt comes in, he's got to be as good as he was last year. But I still think the Yankees are in a good spot right now. I'm confident the spot they're in. Got 4 going to Steinbrenner Field, ironically, this week. They're going to their minor league stadium to play 4 games. So that's pretty ironic. But they should have a good series against the Rays this week. Now, talking about the Red Sox, there's right now Red Sox 9-10 on the season. The Red Sox are 9-10. You pretty much have had inconsistency everywhere with the Red Sox. I mean, there's certain guys in the lineup. The Bregman signing's been good. Went 5 for 5 last night. The Bregman signing's hitting over 300. He's playing well. Trevor Story's hitting the ball well. Wilbur Abreu got off to a hot start. Christian Campbell has. The issue with the lineup, though, is Devers has struggled. Rafael has really struggled from where he was last year. Cashes has struggled. And you got Jarren Duran, who hasn't been that good either. So the lineup's been very inconsistent for the Red Sox. The lineup has been just really, really inconsistent. Some game they're scoring like 8 or 9 runs, but then another game they scored none. So the lineup is very, very feast or famine. Red Sox lineup right now, very feast or famine. Then you go to the rotation, and Sunday proved one thing. The Garrett Crochet trade was a huge trade for this move. Really, the moves they made in the offseason were really – well, the moves Craig Breslow made in the offseason were good moves because – Alex Bregman's off to a hot start, and Garrett Crochet almost threw a no-hitter on Sunday. Garrett Crochet has been really, really good for the Red Sox. A lot of people are saying, he only had 1 good year. This is risky. I don't think it was risky. The Red Sox were aggressive in the offseason, and they needed to be. They needed to be because without those 2 guys, they'd probably be a last-place team right now. They'd probably be a last-place team without Bregman and Crochet. So those 2 guys have really, really helped that team. And also Chapman, the addition of Chapman in the bullpen. Aroldis is the closer, 4 for 4 in saves. The addition of Aroldis Chapman as a closer. That's another thing that's really helped this Red Sox team. But it is early. I mean, you look at the Yankees and Red Sox, I think they both got potential to win the American League. I mean, call me crazy, but I think they both got potential. The Yankees, if they get more depth in the rotation, I think they'll be fine. And then the Red Sox just, get more guys hitting in that lineup, more depth in their rotation, because their rotation is, again, like the Yankees, has really struggled. They got 3 guys with ERAs over 5. Sean Newcomb, Walker and Walker Buehler. So they have a couple guys with ERAs over 5, but they're hoping they get Bayo back as well. So right now, I think they're both contenders. It's very early to judge. They haven't even played a game against each other yet. Very, very early to judge. But I think they're both contenders. They just need consistency. Both teams just need consistency if they are going to make deep runs this season. But we will be continuing to talk about those teams throughout the season. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. We will be back. Justin will be back with me next week. We will be back. We'll be doing 2 shows next week. We'll be doing our NFL mock draft, and we'll be doing a show talking about the NBA playoffs and talking about the Yankees and Red Sox. So Justin will be back with me next week. I thank you all for tuning in this week, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group, and here at CMG we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All 4 Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men, and great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.